It's not a great, it's a good reason, but a bad reason. So,
Dan Snow, I think I've got.
okay. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Before we start the meeting, wanted to read a brief statement regarding our meeting this evening. Remind you all that public comments are always welcome, and I invite you to sign up if you wish to speak tonight. I will recognize those signed up during the citizens' remarks section of the council's agenda. Citizens who wish to speak to council but neglect to sign up in advance may be permitted to address the council during citizens' remarks and comments agenda item, but only at the discretion of the mayor. When speaking to the city council, I ask that these guidelines be followed. Number one, once recognized to speak, please come forward, stand at the podium, and for the record, state your name, and if you're a resident of Lexington, Virginia. If you want to be contacted after this meeting, please provide your contact information to the clerk. Number two, please make your comments to the council as a whole and do not engage the audience. Number three, ask that you be brief, state your position, and provide facts. Number four, please provide written statements and/or supporting materials to the clerk for distribution to the council and the city manager. Debate is prohibited. This is a time for you to share your thoughts and ideas with your city council. Please speak clearly as we want to hear what you have to say. Each speaker is allotted 3 minutes, and individuals may not yield their allotted time to another person. If you represent a group, 5 minutes are allotted, and if you are invited to identify other members of your group who are in attendance. The council or mayor may allow exceptions to these guidelines at their discretion. I remind us all that the meetings of the city council are formal proceedings and are recorded. So once again, thank you all for being here. And with that, I would like to call the Thursday, May 7, 2026 City Council meeting to order. The first item on the agenda, if you all will please stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all very much. Next item on the agenda is consideration of the agenda. I'm not aware of any changes or modifications. Unless there's an objection, we will approve the agenda as presented. It is approved. At this time, I'd like to invite the Public Works members who are with us to please come forward. I'll ask you to come and stand, and if you will, face the audience. And if you will, state your name, the department you're in, and how long you've been with Public Works Department. And we'll let Mr. Madigan go first.
Thank you, Mayor. Patrick Madigan, Public Works Director. Been here for about 4 years, and we've got a great team here, so I'll let them introduce themselves. But we have great citizens, and I've worked for 2 city councils, and so I would say this is the best city council, but that's a small pool. Too. You guys are doing pretty good. So anyway.
Stephanie Tomlin, Administrative Specialist, been here for 26 years.
Amy Smith, Admin Assistant, 15 years.
Scott Golden, Building Maintenance Supervisor, 8 years.
Thomas Sloan, Utilities, 3 years.
Drew Miller, Parks and Cemetery, and 2 years now.
Thomas Wagner, Project Manager, 25 years.
Marcus Rowley, Parks and Cemetery Supervisor, 11 years.
Jerome Rhodes, Utility Supervisor, 5 years.
Doug Sisson, Project Management Manager of Operations, 10 years.
Scott Dameron, Deputy Director, 13 years.
That is your Public Works crew here this evening. We are thrilled to have you with us and the service that you all provide to our citizens. I'd like to offer the following proclamation, but before I do want to also acknowledge and recognize that Stephanie, congratulations for being recognized as the Office Worker of the Year at the VRWA conference. So well deserved and congratulations. I will present this to all of you, but I'll put it in the hands of Mr. Madigan here. But this is a proclamation, National Public Works Week, May 17 through 23, 2026, rooted in service, powered by community. Whereas public works professionals focus on infrastructure, facilities, and services that are of vital importance to sustainable and resilient communities and to public health, high quality of life, and well-being of the people of the city of Lexington. And whereas these infrastructure, facilities, and services could not be provided without the dedicated efforts of public works professionals who are engineers, managers, and employees at all levels of government and the private sector who are responsible for rebuilding, improving, and protecting our nation's transportation, water supply, water treatment, and solid waste systems, public buildings, and other structures and facilities essential for our citizens. And whereas it is in the public interest for the citizens, civic leaders, and children in the city of Lexington to gain knowledge of and maintain an ongoing interest and understanding of the importance of public works and public works programs in their respective communities. And whereas the year 2026 marks the 66th annual National Public Works Week sponsored by the American Public Works Association, Canadian Public Works Association. Now be it resolved, as the mayor of Lexington, I do hereby designate the week of May 17 through 23, 2026 as National Public Works Week. I urge all citizens to join with representatives of the American Public Works Association in government agencies and activities, events, and ceremonies designed to pay tribute to our public works professionals, engineers, managers, and employees, and to recognize the substantial contributions they make to protecting our national health, safety, and advancing quality of life for all. This adopted the 7th day of May of 2026. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Jen. Good work. We'll post this on board. Thank you.
Thanks for being here, guys. Appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Y'all are welcome to stay for the balance of the meeting.
But you still have to get up at 5 o'clock.
That's all right.
Good night, y'all. Thank you. I know it's the public works crew generally doesn't like recognition. They go about their business very quietly and plowing the streets and collecting the trash and keeping things humming along. So we're very grateful for all the work they do. Next item on the agenda is presentations, a City of Lexington PAFR report, and I'll call on Dr. Bing to carry on. Thank you. Thanks for being here. Folks at home.
Yeah. All right. Good evening, everyone. This is the popular annual financial report of PAFR for the city of Lexington for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2025. My name is Cadet Jay Vajayan from VMI. This is my assistant this year, Kevin Warner Lewis from Richmond, and our faculty advisor, Dr. Bing Jiang. All right. So I joined Cadet Cole Cathcart from the class of 24 and Dr. John for the PAFR for the year ending financial year 2023. And I've worked on it for the past 3 years. This is my third year. It's my final year as a senior. I have my apprentice, Cadet Lewis, helping me out this year on this PAFR. Now, the PAFR is essentially a synthesis. It's a summary of the annual comprehensive financial report. So thank you to Ms. Bell for getting that prepared this year. So the main story this year, Lexington received outstanding credit ratings from Standard & Poor's and Moody's ratings. These are two of the biggest rating agencies in the country, and they're important to investors on Wall Street and anyone looking to buy City of Lexington municipal bonds. So Standard & Poor's gave us AA, and then Moody's was a AA2. It's the second highest rating possible for each of these. And it kind of shows that Lexington has attractive, secure bonds with a guaranteed return on investment. Here's a quote, of beloved Mayor, Mr. Friedman. I was talking about the years of preparation for getting these bonds to be as secure as they are, and the fact that they're going to save on interest costs. So the city pays less interest, and there's less of a big expense with funding these big projects. With these bonds, the city is going to be able to finance the Rockbridge Area Department of Social Services, a new building for the RADs, city hall renovations, water and sewer, and storm drainage replacements. So a little more detail on that, major infrastructure project in the last financial year. The new RADs building, estimated cost around $8 million. This is an expansion of the RADs program as it is. There's more space for community events. There's more meeting rooms, city hall renovations, a lot of HVAC renovations, a lot of surface floor area expansion. Also cost around $7 million. And then the Moores Creek Dam. That was a little more complicated this year. There was a sinkhole discovered December 2024, which was deemed a safety hazard as it was. Right now, Moores Creek Dam provides water for a couple of cattle farms in the city. It's not a major water source. And there was discussion of turning it into a reserve water supply. But in the end, the report from the city council concluded that the estimated cost of fixing it and removing the safety hazard was $2 to $3 million. The estimated cost of turning it into a reserve water reservoir was around $16 million. The more economical solution was essentially fixing the sinkhole, removing that safety hazard. So here are the revenues from the general fund this year, keeping in mind that this is not the entire revenue for the city. This is just the city's main operating fund. Total revenue was $24 million, which is down from last year's $27 million, mainly coming from property taxes, other taxes. Intergovernmental revenue continues to be a big one. The budgeted amount, so the estimated amount for this year was $22 million. So we went above the budgeted amount for this year. Expenses, so here's where the general fund is spent. Public safety is the biggest one here, 26%, followed by public works and education. Public safety, public works and education continue to be priorities for the city. The previous year was less, 20 million, and the budgeted amount was more than this expenditure. So we were staying underneath the budgeted amount.
So I had governmental revenue. This is everything, unlike the general fund, like this is everything that the city received financially. For the fiscal year 2025, the revenue was roughly 31 million. There was a decrease from last year, due in part from a drop in intergovernmental revenue as well, and drop in revenues from licenses and permits. Just like revenue, this is everything the city spent this year. For fiscal year 2025, it was roughly 36.5 million, which is an increase from last year. The increase in fund or in spending was due in part because of education, health and welfare, and then capital outlay and non-departmental services. As well, long-term debt increased around 62% from last year, but it still remains below the budget amount, which is roughly 68 million.
All right, so seeing as this is my final year doing this project, the past 3 years, I want to thank all of you for the opportunity to get to do this. This has been a really good learning experience for me. I'd say the biggest thing I learned here is that the fiscal priorities for the city have remained more or less constant. Education, public safety, public works cities remain pretty steadfast in spending on those despite drops in intergovernmental revenue. For myself, it's been a great learning experience for data analysis, looking at public policy, financial data, so updating the Excel formulas that we use, a little window into what we were doing before presenting this. That's the Excel, and the previous three pathways are right there. This has been really great for me. I'm an economics and business major, so obviously this is an application of stuff that usually was just things that we were learning in class. It's also been good being able to mentor Warner here. At BMI, our leadership style is usually a little more aggressive, but being able to talk to Warner, kind of show him the ropes of this has been a good experience in teaching him about this project. I'll be commissioning in the U.S. Army next year. I'll be a logistics officer, and this is a lot of the Excel stuff and a lot of the number stuff is really going to be applicable. So once again, I want to thank you guys for the chance to get to do this. Questions?
Members of council have questions. Mr. Betts.
Congratulations and thanks for being with us over the last few years. One question I do have for you is you've done this for a few years. Is there anything that jumped out to you this year or surprised you that you hadn't seen in past years?
Yeah, so if I could go back to the revenue slide. Intergovernmental revenue this year kind of a sharp drop, but it did surprise me, like I said, how the city's priorities remain fairly consistent. The spending over here didn't necessarily drop as much as intergovernmental revenue did. That was surprising. It shows the city's commitment to these things.
Thank you.
Other members of council have questions. Have you kept up with Cole? Is he alive and well?
I have not really. I know he's commissioned in the Navy.
Okay.
He's over in Little Creek.
Ah, very good. Still stateside.
He's doing well, yeah.
Good, good, good. We are grateful for the work that you've done over the years and having a mentee, being a mentor to Mr. Cadet Lewis and following the direction of Dr. Bing. This has been great, and we appreciate the connection, town and gown opportunity to work together and have a solid base to build from year to year. So thank you very much, and best wishes and good luck in your endeavors. And thank you for your service in the Army.
Sir, thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is Recovery Court, and invite up Josh Elrod. He's coming. I'll share with the cadets you're welcome to stay and have some exposure to a city council meeting, but if you have other endeavors this evening, you're welcome to depart as well. Instead of this. Excellent. 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 All right. Josh, go right ahead.
Thank you. That's very cool.
Yeah.
Thanks for making a little bit of time for us. I'm Josh Elrod, Commonwealth's attorney in Buena Vista. This is Teresa Harris, who's the deputy public defender for the public defender's office for Lexington, Stanton, Augusta. I cannot remember exactly the last time I was here, but I feel like it was sort of at the beginning of the court. We started operations in June of last year, I think.
First participants were July, but we started in June meeting.
That's right. We were meeting at first. We had no participants. So we're almost at a year, and we have 11 current participants. We have probably 4 more that I know of who are probably going to come in the next month or so. When we started the court, I think we estimated that the kind of top number that we thought we would carry would be about 20. So I think we're online with sort of my highest expectations of where we would be. And that's an indication, I think, of how significant the need is here. One of the things we found is that, there are a number of people who have substance use disorder who need treatment. That is not at all the whole, we can't take that whole population for a variety of reasons. They're disqualifying crimes. They may not have a case that's sort of postured in the right way to come into court. So to have 15 people who have this high need and then sort of meet our demographic is really saying something. Things I think are going very well. We meet every Tuesday morning at 8:30 in the Rockbridge County Courthouse. This is a joint effort between Buena Vista, Rockbridge, and Lexington. And I can speak for myself. I think Teresa would say the same thing. I'm excited. We get a docket the night before, which is when our coordinator updates us about how things are going. And Judge Russell actually said, it's kind of like getting, an exam back or something. Like you're worried, you're kind of invested in how everybody's doing, but you're very excited about it. And I've found myself very excited to see the progress people have made. Couple other quick updates, then I'll let Teresa talk, and then if you all have questions. You may remember the one paid position that you all have very graciously funded, and thank you. I think you're giving us $7,000 for FY27 in the opioid abatement fund. We're really appreciative of that support, and I think 13,000 last year. And that, makes it possible to do what we're doing. But we have this coordinator position. We are on our second coordinator. Olivia Camden was our first coordinator. She was terrific. She did a lot to get us going. She had some career goals, and an opportunity opened up, I think last fall, October or so. And so she went to pursue those. We've been very lucky. We have a young woman named Kyla Dyer who started in January, and she's been phenomenal. And that position is, I think, very demanding. She is like a probation officer, social worker, sometimes confidant, best friend, cheerleader to the people who are going through this program. She has to have, discipline, but also the patience of a saint. And she's been very good. She's very well suited for the job, and hopefully she'll stay on. We really benefit from Blue Ridge Court Services, which is the entity that she's kind of housed with. That's our pretrial service unit. And we get a lot of guidance from Megan Rohn and Sam Honig, who are over there. What am I leaving out?
I was going to speak and address the partnerships.
Oh, that's great. So I'll step back, let Teresa talk about partnerships, and then if you all have questions, we can answer those.
Good evening. It's a privilege. I think this is my first time in front of this august body. And I'm glad to be here to sort of champion and tell you about this fabulous program. When Josh first approached me 4 or 5 years ago, so this takes a long time to get it up and running. I was really excited because as the public defender here in this community, and I've been doing this for 17 years now here, we are kind of that front line that sees that need more than many of the others. We have the direct contact with that individual. We are holding their hand. We are trying to navigate them through a very difficult and sometimes oppressive criminal justice system. In an arena that we have now learned from most of our training and literature does not require the old tried and true method of incarceration. We'll beat it out of them. And we are learning many more techniques. And in that vein, we have been very, very fortunate in this community. And I think this body has supported Rockbridge Recovery and in their efforts. And what a phenomenal organization that has taken off in such a short span of time to do the wonderful things that they have done. They partner with us on a regular basis. They're providing the NA and AA meetings. They have been providing leadership. They will take on 2 of our participants for housing in the Hope House. They have now got the Hope House for men and women. And so we are using that partnership in tremendous ways. It has been very beneficial for us to have them deal with our particular participants. I also want to just have some recognition for Judge Russell. Judge Russell championed this when I think Josh brought it to his attention, has supported its efforts, and frankly has been an excellent judge in dealing with this population. We invite you to come on a Tuesday morning at 9 a.m. to the Rockbridge County Courthouse and sit in on one of our courts. They are open to the public. I think you would find that it is extremely heartwarming to watch people be vulnerable, to be open to discussions, and to kind of put out there their needs as well as their accomplishments. And we have had several who have been very accomplished and are going through the program at a tremendous pace. And I don't want to spend too long, but this is a program that's been near and dear to my heart for a long time. And I have been so grateful to Josh for spearheading this program for us in this community. It's just been very, very beneficial. And to have that from a prosecutor, we're very glad to be doing this. We do invite you to come and see the work that we are doing, to see how it's benefiting these participants in very positive ways. And I thank you for your support with this program.
Terrific.
You all have questions?
Yeah, members of council have questions.
If you had more resources, do you think that you'd be able to expand participation in the program from you said maybe up to 20 people? And this is something I think is valuable to think about as we're looking at the jail and what other programs might be available that are alternatives to incarceration.
I'll give a quick answer and then Teresa will have thoughts. I would say we could probably scale up our program somewhat. I think one of the things that, well, a couple thoughts. One is that there are definitely other needs that I think would benefit as well. We see one of the really cool things about working in the recovery court is that we're meeting every week, and it's not just lawyers and a judge. It's also Kyla, who kind of has her finger on a pulse of services, because people come in and have housing instability. They have, they don't need a driver's license. They need employment. They may have educational deficits they have to overcome. And I think one of the neat things that happens in this process is that we've sort of knotted together some of these things a little closer to figure out where those resources are, to get a little bit better about understanding how to connect people with them. But I think we see a lot of cases, not just in recovery court, but generally, where if we just do better as a community in connecting people with resources, we'll reduce that need for incarceration. The other thing I'd just say quickly is, I think we can also look, and it's a discussion Teresa and I were having today, and I think we'll continue to look at some other alternative dockets. We are mindful, I think, of the jail crowding and the issue of potential expansion. We want to think about jail as a last resort. There are, I will certainly say as a prosecutor, there are people who need to be in jail to be incapacitated or rehabilitated or punished. That's just what my job is in part. But it's not everybody, and it's not always for as long. And sometimes we feel like we don't have options because community safety and the safety sometimes of the individual themselves. So we probably could use some more resources down the road, but I would say honestly right now, you all have done a very nice job, I think, funding us, getting us started. I would say just keep your ears open for other programs, and maybe one or both of us will be back asking for support for another program. Because your concern is right on, absolutely.
It is a good concern, and I would like to just add another level to this. We started with our very first participant, and I think he went 3 weeks being the only one there, which probably was very uncomfortable for him. As we have grown, the team grows with how we're going to handle our docket and who is there and what we can provide for them. And so while it would be lovely for us to say, gee, let's do 50 as opposed to 20, it's going to take some steps. I think it's phenomenal that at this stage we have the number of participants that we do, to be in less than 1 year into this participation. And so I would hesitate to expect us to grow too much more over the 20 that we've kind of set aside until we know really, we haven't even had our first graduate. We are online to do that probably in August. If all things go as we have expected from that participant. But we need to get our feet wet. We need to keep getting our feet wet and seeing how we can adjust. And then if it becomes something that we can do, then we will grow and start asking for resources. And I'd also like to say, I think Josh and I both have become both paternalistic and maternalistic with this program. Our guts hurt when we see that email that hits and it says, gee, here's the docket for tomorrow, because we're going to have to see who has done what and who has disappointed one of us in what they have done. And so we very much look at these participants and see them. And so much of the time, society doesn't want to see them. And we're trying to make sure that they're seen.
You mentioned other dockets. Do we have a mental health or therapeutic docket in this area?
There's one in Stanton.
One in Stanton. Does Botetourt yet?
I'm not sure.
I know Lynchburg does.
Yeah, that's one of the things I think we're interested in. And I think we'll be exploring.
And other places across the Commonwealth of Virginia are looking at veterans dockets.
Yeah.
Because we are finding that veterans are also part of our population. Right now, we're just not in a position to devote resources to that.
Thank you.
And I guess home confinement as opposed to incarceration doesn't work because there is a fee that's charged back to the individual, correct?
There is a fee for that, and it is more than my clients can usually afford in a public defender's office. It's also a little hard to, if it's not with the electronic devices, it's very hard to supervise, that sort of thing. The nice thing about having the Hope House is that supervision is built in, everything's built in there. So we find ourselves having to deal much more with our ones that are housed on their own or with families that are also still struggling with substance abuse disorders. But home incarceration is generally not going to be helpful for most of the people who are in this high needs, high risk area.
There are a lot of barriers. I do want to say Silas James, who is with Blue Ridge Court Services, is there. They call it either HEM or GPS monitoring. And I've had a couple of cases that where I've dealt with him, because if somebody is going to be on home electronic monitoring, or even something called SoberTrack, which is a remote alcohol testing device that can work 24/7. And he has been great to work with and is very high energy. And again, this is kind of a plug for Blue Ridge Court Services, which you all are outsourcing part of this tour. They're helping do it. They're just terrific. And there may be some room to expand that. But one of the other difficulties is that the person has to be in a stable home. A lot of times there are home dynamics that make it tough for somebody to stay or be committed to staying and be stable. And then also there are certain parts of the county where it's just the connectivity that makes it hard, because they have to have that ability for I don't know if it's the towers to reach the devices, but there's some limitations technologically.
How long are people generally in the program, or then now that you're in the first year?
It was going to
We
be,
had thought it was about a year, but we're finding that even the one person that's set to graduate in August, it's taken about 13 months. Yeah. And this person has had one hiccup through the whole process, and everybody had the same hiccup. It was over a holiday. And so that is not the typical time frame. That is did everything quickly and well. There are issues that we're trying to struggle with, is how long do we keep them in? We have 5 phases. And each of those phases are connected to a period of time of sobriety before they phase up. And so it takes some a much longer time to get there. Recovery is a difficult journey to make, even when you're making it with other people. And one of the things that we're finding now is that our participants are gelling together. They're providing rides and transportation for each other. They are doing social activities. They're going to meetings together. And it was something that we had hoped, but to see it this soon to materialize has been great to see. But it's probably going to take between a 13-month and 18 months.
Yeah, and Judge Russell was telling us recently, talking to another judge who runs a docket about somebody who was in the program for like 4 years. And one of the things to keep in mind when we talk about hiccup and periods of sobriety, if every participant calls a phone number every single night between 6 p.m. and, well, whenever, they're going to go to bed. And that tells them if they need to show up the next day for a drug test. And if they live in Goshen and they have to get to Lexington the next day, if the person who's supposed to be driving them has car trouble or just doesn't come through, they miss that test, that counts as a positive screen. So we've had some people who it almost seems like making the appointments is harder than staying sober, but it's the way the program works. So yeah, some people are going to take a lot longer. Hopefully 18 months or so.
Good.
Thank you.
Other members of council
Terrific
have
program.
questions?
Thank you.
Thank you for the update and thank you for your endeavors to make it work. It sounds like a lot of teamwork that's all coming together, and glad Judge Russell's able to handle the whole kit and caboodle. So
He has been. He's done a great job.
terrific.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is the fiscal year 2026 third quarter financial report. Jen Bell.
Hello, good evening. I don't have a long report today because generally things are in line with expectations. As I mentioned in my memo, we are still struggling with our lodging taxes, but thankfully this year we're doing very well on the meals and sales tax, which are generally projected to be ahead of budget when we end the year. In fact, in the general fund, I spent today really going through and trying to put a number to where I think we'll end the year. And it's very preliminary and it could change drastically, but I am right now seeing that we should finish with approximately a $400,000 surplus. In the schools also doing very well, following their budget. The utility fund, also on the revenue side. On the expenses side, we didn't get to start some of our capital projects as quickly as we had thought we would. So we'll end the year far below budget on the expense side, but we will be carrying those forward to FY27. And so we did release the freeze, as you know, on equipment purchases. And Public Works has ordered 2 of their vehicles, and the police department yesterday or today, I believe they were able to get the final information for the 3 vehicles they're going to lease through the new enterprise fleet management program we've signed up for. I will be requesting a small budget amendment later on during the public hearings. But other than that, if anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Thank you, Jen. Members of council have any questions on that third quarter financial report?
Any idea why the lodging tax was did better for some reason in February?
I think what happened in February is that some people paid late, and so it got posted to February, but was meant for January.
Yeah, because there's not a lot of movement in February as everything was frozen over, lest we forget. And did I hear you correctly, looking at the general fund you anticipate a surplus excess revenue of 400,000?
Yes, you heard correctly.
Very good. Thank you.
With a lot of caveats, though.
Of course, of course. Racing to the finish line.
Yes.
Terrific.
If I could just
Yes.
add one thing, Jen spent a lot of time doing that forecasting and I just want to commend her for doing that extra work. We have a few more weeks left in the fiscal year. It's not in any financial professionals comfort zone to be forecasting future. It's been said that it's very difficult to make predictions, especially about the future. So I do want to just thank her for doing that work. And there are many caveats, as she said.
Thank you, sir. Members of council have any questions? Excellent. Thank you for that presentation, and move on to 5.4 city council salaries, and I'll call on the city manager.
Thank you, Mayor. This is an item that's come up on a few occasions amongst council members at either goal-setting sessions or in your normal course of business. The city of Lexington has not adjusted its salary for elected leaders such as yourself since 2005. So it's been 21 years since the last time council pay was adjusted. As was discussed in your last meeting and is discussed in the memorandum, your ordinance or your compensation as elected leaders are set by both limited by state code and set by ordinance. And so at your direction, at your last meeting, Jen Bell did some comparisons, and we're providing that data to you in your report. It is my assessment based on the data that we've collected that having not adjusted council's pay since 2005, we have fallen behind what other peer cities have done. But you can see there's a little bit of variation. My assessment is that I think we should probably get closer to the city of Covington and Farmville. Those have some similarities to us. And so that's what I recommend if council desires to increase compensation for the next council that's seated in July of next year, July of 2027, that I'm recommending that council pay would go up to 8,400 for the mayor's position and 7,200 for members of council. If that's more or less than what council had it, this would be a good time for you to bring that up. Because my intention is to bring forward, working with the city attorney, to bring forward an ordinance that would amend the sections of the code of our code that set that salary. That will require, of course, a public hearing. Just a reminder on procedure, I spell this out in the memorandum, but if council wants to adjust it, it can't take effect until the July following the year of the adjustment, which would be July of 2027. And you have to do it 4 months in advance of an election. So you would have to do this in June. Otherwise, you'd be looking at July of 2029, I believe. So if that's your pleasure, this is for discussion purposes only. There's nothing before you tonight, but I'd be happy to take any feedback that you wish to provide as we prepare this ordinance.
Thank you, sir. Members of council have any questions, observations? Yes, ma'am.
I appreciate the work you put into this. I think it's a fair recommendation. What do you think about some of the localities add a COLA so that we don't have to review it very often, that there's automatically a increase? Do you have any thoughts on that? If that would make sense as well?
Yeah, I've done similar analysis for a couple of other cities that I've worked with, and it is not uncommon. I tend to find it to be a bit clunky because then salaries become some really weird number that seems, it just becomes it just adjusts in weird increments. There's nothing wrong with it though. It is reflective of cost of living adjustments. So it certainly is a policy option that you could direct us to do.
Yeah, I don't know that it does a whole lot for you, but maybe it keeps them from revisiting it very frequently in the future.
I would just recommend you revisit it every 10 years instead of every 20.
Yeah, right.
That sounds fair.
You make a commitment to do that.
I think this was good work, Tom. I think this is good, and I'd point out it's still far below what the max that a city council of a city of size could pay itself.
Very good. Other questions, observations? Any objection to the city manager bringing forward an ordinance at our June meeting?
No.
Very good. Thank you, Tom. Next item on the agenda is public hearings. Public hearing on ordinance 2026-06, an ordinance that appropriates funds approved for the fiscal year 2027 budget. Ms. Bell.
I'm going to pass it over to the city manager.
Very good.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Ms. Bell. We have to have a public hearing by law before any appropriation ordinance is adopted for the upcoming fiscal year. So that issue is not before you. The ordinance itself will be on your June 4th agenda. Our recommendation is that you open and hold the public hearing and then close it, and then you'll be in a position to consider the adoption of the ordinance at your June meeting. As just a reminder of how we've gotten to this point, the city's draft capital improvement program was released on February 2nd. The city's draft operating budget was released on March 6th. For both of those, we've already held public hearings in March and in April respectively. And so those are not required public hearings, but that's something we do voluntarily to engage residents. As a reminder, Ms. Bell was ecstatic that we had some participation this year, perhaps a record setting, at least in recent memory, participation in our public hearings. So this public hearing would be on essentially the draft budget as it was submitted, and we've had some communication about a handful of amendments that have been made through the discussions that we've had collectively. So there's no action needed tonight, but I would be happy to answer any questions before the public.
Members of council have any questions for the city manager? Hearing none, I will open the public hearing on ordinance 2026-06, ordinance that appropriates funds approved for fiscal year 2027 budget, and ask if there's anyone here who would like to speak to this topic. Didn't have anyone sign up, and I don't see anyone emerging from their seats to speak to this matter, so I will close the public hearing at 7:46. Thank you all, and we'll take that up later. Next item is public hearing on ordinance 2026-07, an ordinance that incorporates fiscal year 26 budget amendment requests after the end of the third quarter.
I'd like to take that one, Mayor.
Fantastic. Thank you, Ms. Bell.
As I mentioned just a few moments ago, we have a handful of amendments we're requesting tonight. We received additional opioid funds that we didn't expect, so we would like to send those to split between the Recovery Court and the Hope House. In our FY26 budget, we had budgeted to purchase an activity bus for the schools. They were able to pay for that on their own through their FY25 surplus. So I would like to just request the appropriation for the school fund. They also need to purchase some textbooks here at the end of the year, so they're requesting to take $111,000 out of their textbook reserve account. And then just $3,450 for an overage on the painting costs of the school board. For the utility fund, we have $102,000 for preliminary design work at the Moores Creek Dam. We've been told by our advisors that having a shovel-ready project will increase our chances to receiving grant funds. And lastly, I think we discussed at the last meeting that Columbia Gas had agreed to provide $175,000 toward paving in the Taylor Street area, I believe it is. And so we're requesting to appropriate $275,000, $175,000 from Columbia Gas and $100,000 from fund balance in order to really complete all of the paving that's necessary there. That's all I have.
Thank you, ma'am. Any questions of Ms. Bell?
Thank you for the summary. Since we had planned to pay for the activity bus out of the equipment replacement fund for about $106,000, and since we didn't need to, what comes of that 106? Because the equipment replacement fund was going to use some general fund dollars, some fund balance. Just kind of wondering about that 106.
That 106 will just return to fund balance.
Okay.
We won't use it.
And so in a way, we could almost look at it's being used to, it was appropriated and being used to pave the neighborhood that was disrupted by Columbia Gas. And so in a way, the budget, just a simple way of saying it is that the budget is not dipping into fund balance more than we had planned a year ago. So
I would agree with.
sounds good.
Very good. Other questions? Very good. Hearing none, I'd like to open the public hearing on ordinance 2026-07 regarding the fiscal year 26 budget amendment request at the end of the third quarter. And did not see anybody signed up. Is there anybody who would like to speak to this topic this evening? Not seeing anyone. I will close the public hearing at 7:49 and ask for council's thoughtful consideration.
I make a motion that we adopt ordinance 2026-07, a budget amendment incorporating FY 26 budget amendment requests at the end of the third quarter.
Second.
I have a motion in dueling seconds. Any discussion with
I'll
council?
just compliment Public Works and the city manager for working with Columbia Gas after they're very disruptive for a period of time to work on that negotiation. They've now done it in multiple neighborhoods where we received some allocation of funds from Columbia Gas. And fortunately, the city's in a position to put additional dollars of taxpayer dollars into that so that we can pave the whole neighborhood and really fix what was disrupted, since the residents deserve that. So second time we've done that here in recent memory. So I just appreciate that.
Absolutely. I know all of council agrees with you, and it's good to have good neighbors to work with in Columbia Gas and others. They set a fine example for partnering. Any other comments? Hearing none, ask for a roll call vote. Mr. Betts, Ms. Strawn.
Aye.
Mr. Ziegler.
Aye.
Mr. Driscoll.
Aye.
Mr. Smith.
Aye.
Ms. Alexander. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much for bringing those forward, and good work all around. Next item, consideration of minutes, have April 16 and 21. Unless there's an objection to approving them as presented, they will stand approved. Don't see any objections or changes. They are approved. Next is citizens' remarks and comments. Invite anybody who would like to speak this evening. Don't have anyone signed up, but is there anyone who would like to speak to council this evening? Hearing none. Missing Doug Harwood here, making sure he didn't want to jump out of his seat and say something. Close that at 7:51, and we'll move straight into the consent agenda. And there are 4 items there for your consideration.
I'll make the motion to approve the consent agenda.
I have a motion and a second. Ask for a roll call vote. Mr. Driscoll.
Aye.
Ms. Strawn.
Aye.
Mr. Betts. Mr. Ziegler.
Aye.
Mr. Smith.
Aye.
Ms. Alexander. Motion carries. Thank you all very much, and make note of those dates and events coming up to have a lot of fun in Lexington. I'm not aware of any unfinished business. Boards and commissions, airport feasibility.
No report, no, sorry, no meeting, no report.
Very good. Blue Ridge Resource Authority, Mr. Smith.
No report. We meet Monday.
Main Street, Lexington, Mr. Smith.
Notes from Main Street, very beautiful and well-attended dedication ceremony for Courthouse Square last Thursday's Chambers Business After Hours. Thanks again to council and city staff, especially Public Works Department, for support and assistance during this project. Main Street Board and staff will be doing a fund development training session with a consultant from Spark Mill on Friday, tomorrow. And as Main Street continues to make progress with fundraising efforts. Also plan to ask for council's approval on the Line Dance Lex event, which has been moved to September, which we believe has the potential for a significant revenue generator for the Main Street organization. Main Street will be hosting a Virginia Main Street Rev Up workshop at the Gin Hotel Tuesday. We look forward to bringing in about 50 Main Street and economic development folks from around the region. The topic of the workshop is retail and business support. Planning is well underway for the Freedom Food Festival and the Children's Bike Parade during the 4th of July weekend. Lexington Bicycle Repair should be opening up sometime in May down below Pure Eats. And finally, Woodrow's and Flex Fitness Studio are both closing in May. Several of Lex classes are being absorbed by center of gravity. Main Street is working with property owners to help find new tenants for both spaces. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Any questions? Planning Commission, Ms. Strawn.
Planning Commission met on April 23rd, and we reviewed a draft of the Lexington Comprehensive Plan. And we also discussed a zoning text amendment for planned unit developments, PUDs. We looked at where PUDs have been in the past and what the ordinance used to look like. It's had a couple iterations, and it was just a very preliminary discussion. That's all I have.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Betts, Regional Tourism.
Yeah, I don't have much of a formal written report that I normally do, but I will say that there were some strategic planning meetings that happened at the Virginia Horse Center that I think were very informative and will hopefully point us in the right direction and some solutions maybe to get us more, out there online and work on SEO and work with different businesses, hopefully. And I think some good thoughts in the work to improve tourism experience and draw to the area.
Very good. Thank you, sir. Raro, Mr. Ziegler.
The RARA Board of Directors met yesterday. Want to highlight a couple of upcoming dates. There will be a Chamber Government Roundtable on Tuesday, May 19th at 8:30 a.m. That will be at the Pavilion, actually, at Brubaker Field. And so that Government Roundtable is kind of course, the Chamber leads it, but it will be featuring RARO on the 19th at 8:30 in the morning. As we go into June, there will be an event at Glenmorey Park on June 13th. That is a Saturday. It's National Get Outdoors Day. And it's gonna kind of be like Rockbridge Outdoors Fest. There'll be lots of opportunities to interface with all of the organizations that help the public enjoy the outdoors in the area. In addition to kind of highlighting those two events, I would like to highlight the new scoreboard at Brubaker that Public Works helped install. The Lexington Moose Lodge donated all of the funds for that. Lexington Public Works received assistance from Randy Hostetter Excavating, also putting it in. Public Works is always there to help. I highlighted in an email today to Patrick Madigan and Scott Dameron, and when I wanted to thank them for their work in that this spring we have 261 boys playing on 26 baseball teams. We have 185 girls playing on 19 teams, and we have 19 co-ed softball teams. I know not all of those teams play at Brubaker or Fox Field, but they frequently do. We use a lot of diamonds in the community. You hear me talk about all that all the time, but that is literally hundreds of athletes. And when you add the spectators that watch those athletes, that's over 1,000. That is 1,000 people easily that are enjoying our fields. Then we've invested a lot in our facilities. The backstops that we've done, the scoreboards. And so I just really want to highlight that. The growth of our adult co-ed softball, which happened years ago, and then it did go away for a long time. But this is our 4th year, I believe, having co-ed softball. Year number 1, we had 8 teams. Year number 2, we had 12. Then we had 17, and now we have 19 teams. And so I think that really shows that RARO identified the need for that in the community to come back, and RARO offered it, and people are signing up and enjoying it. I also want to highlight 2 of our employees. Christine Clancy recently received a certification to be a pickleball instructor, and Becca Stratton received certification from the Department of Wildlife Resources in archery. And so we already are offering a ton of pickleball. Now we have a certified instructor, and we may look at expanding our outdoors program in the future with Becca's certification. I was remiss in forgetting Dominion, They always are helping with anything that Raro needs and frequently anything that the county or the city need to do. They helped also with the scoreboard installation. They obviously have helped with the lights before at Foxfield and Brubaker. So thank you for the reminder about Dominion. I didn't want to forget them, but those are some of the really good things that are happening. Lastly, I want to shout out one of our partners, Buena Vista. For many, many years, there have been bleachers at Camden Field that have not been suitable for spectators to sit on. They've been sort of an eyesore, but also kind of an attractive nuisance to kids to try to climb on. The city of Buena Vista finally removed those bleachers, and we're appreciative of that. There are other temporary bleachers there that folks can sit on, but just to remove that hazard around a playing field where kids are, we appreciate the city of Buena Vista doing that. So that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Any questions? Yes.
One question. Has the RARO subcommittee met?
We have not met. 2 weeks ago, I was at a Board of Supervisor meeting and talked to David McDaniel about that, and we agreed it's time to meet. You know, the rec center is still moving forward. It's still been approved, and we need to have those conversations that we were charged to have. And so we agreed to do that. And thanks for mentioning that.
Mindful that Corolla may become a key sponsor for the softball league, adult softball league, because they tend to get a little bit more business when folks that haven't been playing ball for a while get out there. I've seen circumstances that have prevailed for that. So thank you, sir, for that report. Threshold Housing Commission, Ms. Alexander.
Thank you. Threshold met on April 22nd, 4 o'clock. Their meeting focused on applications and budget allocations, and 3 more applications had been received, bringing the total projected cost close to 200,000 budget limit with 50,000 in contingency. We're continuing to review those applications while seeking other potential funding opportunities. The comp plan was discussed and discussed consolidation of revised chapters of the comp plan, addressing potential funding gaps and prioritizing recommendations. The explored financial incentives for developers, including potential tax abatements for property renovations over a 5 to 10 year period. The discussion also covered organizing seminars and workshops on housing issues, which with a focus on coordinating efforts with other organizations in the area. Talked about CDBG block grant program, and those who didn't know about it, got them up to speed on what that was all about. And that's a program that's been used in the past with other projects that we know about. And we also have been communicating with CERCAP, and they could potentially help the staff with writing and administering a grant that they could pursue for Threshold. Also discuss partnering with other organizations such as TAP's weatherization program in Roanoke. Also considering how to educate the participants in, for instance, the homeowner helper program about energy saving while pursuing the funding opportunities. I do understand that TAP has some funding issues because of the slowdown in the federal funding that they get, but we're wanting to reach out to them anyway to get some updates about what's going on with weatherization there. The discussion included various housing options, such as the ADUs, the cottage houses, townhouses, and how our zoning changes now allow for different types of housing. And talked about supply and demand in the housing market. And it was noted that while housing affordability is a challenge, our recent efforts to expand housing options may help level off price increases over time. Talked about those zoning reforms and how it would make local living more accessible for middle to lower income residents. There was mention of ongoing work on a plan and development text that will create more flexible zoning options for harder to develop parcels with the next planning commission meeting. And on top of that, this, the city planner talked about the state forcing certain changes to take place within the localities, including potential requirements for multiple dwelling units, exploring two main solutions, listing students, settings, and evaluating underused properties in an area. We also discussed a property registration system similar to that of Lynchburg, which involves paying a fee and maintaining contact information on vacant properties. That led to a discussion of land banks and land trusts as a way of addressing underutilized properties, particularly those with back taxes owed, and the possibility of pooling properties through a regional land bank or land trust rather than managing them solely in Lexington. It was agreed to review existing properties and determine the specific requirements for vacant property registration. Noting that there are existing processes for handling delinquent taxes and properties, there hasn't been a systematic approach to address this issue. And we will be discussing that further. That is the end of my report.
Thank you, ma'am. Members of council have any questions on that threshold report?
Just a brief note. I think that the applications that were approved already were the ones that came in before the deadline. The ones that we're looking at now came in after the deadline. And I don't think we've approved any of those or plan to fully fund them until the other ones are through. Yeah, until the other ones are done. Yeah.
One step at a time, as it were. Very good. Thank you.
One request and a comment, if you could, could I get a copy of that report? Because you have so much in there. So much going on. Thank you, Nick. That's great. Some of this goes back to, I've been an advocate for the council to come up with a simple statement on housing. What's our housing policy? Which would talk about a lot of the things that you have in here, as well as our interest, including the zoning. And so anyway, I'll talk about it later, but I think you've laid a lot out here. And it's very good work. The other thing is to make a plug for the article in the Advocate about homeowner helper program. If you haven't read it, it's a very good article, including tying going at the very end, quoting from the regional housing study in terms of laying out the objective of how this helps. So it's a good article.
We're very proud of our current board and our planning staff. I believe we're accomplishing some heavy lifting for the city, and we're going to see some results of the funding that you all provided.
And we spent a good deal of time after talking about the homeowner helper program about where do we go next, what other areas can we look at helping, and that's some I think where the report has come from.
Meaningful work. Good. Thank you for the report and the progress Threshold is making. For my report, listed appointments and authorities. The list that you received, I've not contacted all the folks on the list, so I'm going to ask for your indulgence to consider appointments at our next meeting as I finish following up with some of these folks, and bring those forward at our June meeting. And along those lines, yes,
Can we get the applications from
yes,
everybody?
yes. In part, we will take it up in June because as a reminder, I'm sure we'll be reminded again, there will be no council meeting the third Thursday of May, May 21st. We will not be meeting. Our next meeting will be in June. Earlier today was a National Day of Prayer hosted by Randolph Street United Methodist and Reginald Early, and had the opportunity to participate. It was a great service and very uplifting for prayer of peace for the city, the state, the country, and the world. So covered all the bases with that. Wanted to echo Mr. Smith's comments. The work that Main Street Lexington led, Rebecca Logan and Jesse Lyons in particular, who tag teamed what we now have for the courthouse square, It's a substantial change, and it's absolutely beautiful. And I think as the plantings begin to grow and flourish, it'll serve us very, very well. And it was a fantastic ribbon cutting last Thursday. So thank you all. And one of the joys of living in Lexington is the seasons that we get to experience. And talking with the cadet earlier, Cadet Jay, that he'll be graduating. So we got graduations and lots of people visiting, and the city looks fantastic through and through. And just proud of the work that our public works team does and the whole staff. And with that, I'll turn it over to the city manager.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a few items to report on this evening. I've had some communication with Commissioner of the Revenue, Kelly Glass. And as you know from a couple of prior reports, we're in the midst of a reassessment, but we're not quite done. Her report to me today, and I'll send you an email on this tomorrow, is that they anticipate, the vendor who's doing the reassessment anticipates finishing their work Monday or Tuesday, and they're preparing notices that will go out to property owners about what their assessed valuation will be. That could happen. That could be mailed out as early as next Friday. So residents in the community, property owners may be receiving communication about what the assessor, the independent assessor, thinks their property should be valued at for purposes of taxation. There'll be more information on that in your report tomorrow. But of course, we are planning on, with the FY27 budget, doing the equalization process, which means no matter what the assessed value goes up or down, the tax rate will effectively mean that the city collects the same amount of revenue. That could affect different property owners differently, but generally speaking, most people should pay the same amount of tax that they're used to for FY26 that we're currently in. Second, tomorrow I'll be going to Richmond for the Virginia First Cities, and I'll report back on what we learned. Governor Spanberger will be there. She's the keynote speaker, and so we're looking forward to that. Then there's one other item, but I can't remember it. So I'll get back to you if I recall.
Very good. Thank you. Any questions for the city manager?
It have to do with cats. I know that you've done some work on the cat issue, and I don't know if you have anything to report on that, but
It wasn't about cats,
okay.
but I'm happy to talk about cats. We have worked in partnership with some residents who are devoted to cats and cat wellness, and we have worked to remove about 40 or 50 feral or stray cats from the Hook Lane, Graham Lane area. That partnership is proven successful in my estimation, and so I have invited those same residents to continue to work on some other streets. I think Massey is one that has a stray cat problem, Arpaia, and one other street that I can't recall off the top of my head, but we have a standing working relationship and an open invitation to keep doing that work. So if you do have a feral cat or stray cat problem in your specific neighborhood, feel free to email me and we'll add that to the list. And the idea is to humanely trap, to spay and neuter, and find homes for the animals. So we don't want to become a community that hasn't addressed it as early, and a dollar of prevention is worth 10 in terms of remediation.
Thank you for your ongoing work on that.
You have Lewis Street on your list?
Lewis,
Yes.
I do now.
Tom, one question on the assessments. When the letters go out, does it mention anything about the equalization, or that's something that comes later?
I don't know. I haven't, it's not a letter coming from us. I think it's
Right.
coming from our vendor, but I'll be certainly talking to the commissioner and figuring out what exactly it says.
Yeah, I mean, just
I
so that,
take the point.
yeah, they're not surprised when they get the letter or worried.
Very good. Thank you, Tom. City Attorney.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just one thing I wanted to mention, the courthouse square has been discussed a couple times this evening. The paperwork has not necessarily kept up with the development and the improvements. John Dryden and I have, we think, finally put the finishing touches on that. So that will be coming forward on the now packed June 4th agenda for your consideration to record the necessary conveyances of the small parcels to go along with the work that's been done at Courthouse Square. So that'll be on the June 4 agenda.
Thank you,
Other than
sir.
that, happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions from council for the city attorney? Very good. Next item, new business, homeowner helper program, MOU.
Thank you, Mayor. This is actually a three-party memorandum of understanding among City of Lexington, the Lexington Economic Development Authority, and the Threshold Commission. You are the first entity to review this. The other two entities will be looking at it later in the month. I don't anticipate any problems, but again, they haven't had a chance to comment on it, and it's entirely possible they'll come up with revisions or suggestions that we'll be bringing back before you. But essentially, this is a three-party agreement that spells out the duties and responsibilities of each entity. In summary, the city is both, council is providing the $250,000 appropriation for this program as a pilot. That's as much funding as you have committed thus far. It may be the entirety of the funding that you commit, but that's a future discussion. And city staff are assisting with the administration of the program. The Threshold Commission, as Ms. Alexander, Vice Mayor Alexander has mentioned, has reviewed the applications, developed the program. The program requirements are attached to the MOU. I think they've done outstanding work over the last 9 months to do this in a way that's fair, equitable, helpful, clear. And then the third party is the Economic Development Authority. They will be the actual legal mechanism that will issue the loan and be responsible for administering that loan program upon the recommendation of the Threshold Commission. Fairly simple document. I did want to thank the city attorney for his assistance getting this to you. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, sir. Members of council have any questions? If not, would welcome your thoughtful consideration.
I make a motion that we approve the MOU pertaining to the agreement between Threshold, the City of Lexington, and the Economic Development Authority.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, a roll call vote. Mr. Smith?
Aye.
Mr. Driscoll?
Aye.
Ms. Strong? Mr. Ziegler?
Aye.
Mr. Betts? Ms. Alexander? Motion carries. Thank you very much, and best wishes in carrying it through to our partners and getting the program fully up and running. Next item on the agenda is Diamond Street bid results and the resolution to award the contract. City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. On the agenda is a resolution to award a contract for $692,750 to Randy Hostetter Excavating, Hostetter Excavating. We bid this project and opened the bids on April 2nd. Mr. Hostetter's company was the low responsible bidder. This is before you as a resolution because this is $53,150 more than budgeted. If it were at or below budget, we would have the authority to just go ahead and approve and sign the contract because council has already appropriated the money. In addition to the small amount of money above the estimated project cost that we have in the FY26 budget, staff is requesting provision of a project management and a modest contingency. That would bring the additional funding request, not the contract fee, but this would be just for your consideration, $106,788. Well, that is more than what was budgeted. Just as a reminder, the Jackson Avenue Phase 1A project was well below what the project estimate. We have at least $600,000 of forecasted savings from that project. So this will more than offset the additional request for funding that we have before you this evening. This work will begin soon and should be finished over the summer. Happy to answer any questions.
Is this work concentrated in the blocks between Main and Maury?
Maury, yeah, Maury and Diamond, I believe.
Okay.
The savings for the bond proceeds, there's only certain things that can be used on, correct?
That's right. This is one of the things that it's definitely allowed for. This was one of the 4 projects that we set out in the borrowing documentation.
Very good. Other questions for the city manager?
You anticipate road closure?
I don't know yet. I'll be happy to report back to you. I will definitely predict road inconvenience.
And mess comes along with construction. Very good. Wonderful. Any other questions? Hearing none, ask for council's consideration.
I'll make a motion that we adopt resolution 2026-10 to approve this funding.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote. Ms. Strawn, Mr. Driscoll.
Aye.
Mr. Ziegler.
Aye.
Mr. Betts, Mr. Smith, Ms. Alexander. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you all very much. Next item on our agenda is a closed meeting, and that is to, before Ms. Alexander reads us in, the purpose is to, for council to discuss city manager's performance evaluation. I don't anticipate we'll be taking any action afterwards, and only or other than adjourning the meeting. With that, Ms. Alexander, if you'll read us in.
I move that Lexington City Council convene in a closed meeting pursuant to Virginia Code 2.2-3711 A1 for the purpose of discussing the performance of the city manager.
Second.
Thank you for that second. So the roll call vote. Ms. Strawn. Aye. Mr. Smith. Mr. Sigler.
Aye.
Mr. Driscoll.
Aye.
Mr. Betts. Mayor Friedman.
Aye.
Thank you.
Think I
We'll go into closed session.
Yeah. Right about this.